Good morning. Happy Wednesday. I hope everybody's doing amazing. Thank you to those that have joined us again for our 3-part series on the executive mind, a conversational series where we are talking about how to develop the executive mindset, ways to get you into executive roles, to develop the attitudes, knowledge, skills, and habits for executive leadership. This program is presented by Accelerate, a pre-executive coaching cohort program. Again, my name is Ashley Watterson. For those that have been with us 3 days, you know me now, but if you do not, my name is Ashley Watterson. I am an organizational development consultant, an executive coach, and your moderator for this series. We have had a great 2 days talking about the executive mindset. On Monday, we talked about the reflective mind. So this is about the importance of self-awareness, executive presence, the importance of having mentors and sages in your life at different stages. And yesterday, we talked about the relational mind. Oh, so many great takeaways from yesterday. We talked about trust as a main component, how trust is an objective and it's foundational to your team and to your organizations to work effectively. We talked about transparency and accountability and how this can really create a culture where people feel safe to try new things and know that they will have the support and know that they will not get reprimanded if things go wrong. So they know that they have that energy and support around them because their leaders, you as their executive leader, have also been authentic, have been transparent, have been accountable to the things that have happened within the organization. And a final point we talked about is, recognizing that there are differences, cultural differences. Everybody brings their different experience, their different backgrounds, their perspectives, their values, and all of that contributes to the way that they see things, the way that they communicate, the way that they want to be communicated to. So we encourage you to be curious, to increase your level of awareness of others, and just be willing to be flexible and adaptable in the way that you build trust with people. And today we are talking about the strategic mind. And the strategic mind is that enterprise thinking, expanding your, expanding your ability to think more systematically, to set that direction, to be that visionary leader. And so I'm excited that we'll be talking with Seth in a moment. But I want to encourage you all. Over the last couple of days, we've been talking about this executive mindset opportunity and assessment that you can gauge. Where are you at on the executive mind? Are you ready to take it to the next level? Are you ready to apply for that job that you've been thinking about that is at the that has an executive role? So we're going to drop that. You see it on the screen right now. We'll drop it in the chat too. It takes less than 3 minutes. It's a great way, again, just to get an understanding of where are you at today. And maybe you'll realize at the end of this, you're doing really well. You're doing things already that have this strategic mindset. And maybe you realize, I could be taking a little bit more time to develop the strategic mind. And with that, we've been talking about the last few days, this amazing cohort opportunity we have coming up this fall. We are really excited to launch this program as we believe it's going to be a transformational program, again, that will help you to develop those knowledge, skills, attitudes, and habits that you need. Now, you've seen this person already the last few days, but I'm really excited to have this conversation with Seth Yalorda, an organizational consultant, an executive coach, a keynote speaker, and a TED Talk speaker as well, I might add. And so thank you, Seth. Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. I'm super excited to be here. I have one question for you, Ashley. Did you have Chipotle yesterday?
I did not have Chipotle yesterday.
Okay. All right.
The real question is, did you have Chipotle?
I did not have Chipotle yesterday, but it may be on the menu for today. So,
okay.
And for those who don't know what we're talking about, go back and watch yesterday's video where Pierre led us through building trust via burritos at Chipotle.
Exactly. All right. Thank you so much, Seth. So, like I said, today we're going to talk about the strategic mind. So, Seth, when we say the strategic mindset, what exactly are we talking about? And why is this so critical for those preparing for those executive roles?
Yeah. Great question. So the relational mind is how you lead yourself. The the reflective mind is how you lead yourself. The relational mind is how you lead your team and others. The strategic mind is really how you lead the organization. And that is the primary responsibility. You are promoted into middle management, supervisor, manager, director, because you have the ability to get the task done. You are a tactician. You're able to really do the work. But then they also recognize that you have some ability to manage and motivate people. You're promoted into the executive level because people identify you as not just someone who can do the work as a frontline worker, but you have exceptional skill when it comes to managing people, motivating people, inspiring people, building trust. But then also they begin to see that you have potential to lead the organization strategically, to think strategically, to lead with vision, to understand that this organization is not just one silo, but there's multiple parts, and that you can kind of play orchestrator. The best way I like to illustrate it is, imagine that you are a grand chess master, right? You're a grand chess master. A grand chess master, if you've ever played chess before, they have the ability to really look at the whole board, and they can see 2 or 3 moves ahead of anyone else, right? So you're able to see, like, if they do this, I'm going to do this. If they do that, I'm going to do this. They have this balcony view. And I want to use that word very intentionally. A strategic mind, an executive leader, has to have a balcony view. You've left the crowded floor where people are playing. You've gone up a few levels, you've climbed a few floors, and now you're looking out the balcony and you're overlooking the entire system, the entire board. And from this elevated vantage point, you don't just see the next move, you see the end game, right? Like, you see when it's all said, like, this is how we're going to reach the destination. You're able to recognize patterns. You can anticipate moves. You can consider the consequences 3, 4, 5 steps ahead. So while other people are reacting, the strategic mind is orchestrating, right? While other people are busy doing work, the strategic mind is focused. While the middle managers might be chasing fires, right? The strategic mind is thinking about the systems and the whole and the big picture. So that strategic mind, the reason it's so important is because you operate from an elevated position, right? So you're getting above the noise. You have foresight. I love how John Maxwell says it. He says executive leaders, they see more and more before, right? So they see if the middle manager sees more, the executive leader should see more. Right. And if the average person can see 1 step ahead, then the executive strategic mind needs to see 3, 4 steps ahead. I cannot just see what's at the door, but I can see what's coming around the corner. Right. And so you have foresight, you have an elevated position, and then you're able to see how all these pieces integrate together, how, operations come together and strategy comes together, and, HR comes together, and R&D comes together, and how all these pieces flow together in order to create a whole. So that's, in a nutshell, right? That's what the strategic mind is all about. It's about your ability to elevate to the balcony view so that you can see the entire board.
Wow. And that's no small feat.
No, not at all.
A lot of work. That's a lot of work to do, a lot of things to consider, internal influences, external factors, the people, there's so much to unpack there. So now, and I think this is sometimes, I think we experience this in our individual life, but I want to talk about, why is clarity such a critical component of this strategic leadership that you're talking about?
Yeah. And I got to go to my iPad for this. Right. And so I'm going to go into teacher mode real quick, facilitator mode, if that's okay. So I have 4 circles here, and you can probably see them on my screen. I have 4 circles here, and I'm just going to number them. I'm going to say, this is like stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. And inevitably, what happens when you step into a new organization, you've been promoted into a new role. A lot of times with stage 1, it looks something like this. All of the arrows, and these are arrows, right? All of the arrows are pointed in, my arrows are kind of suspect, right? All of these arrows are pointed in different directions, meaning everyone is doing what seems right in their own eyes. They're all going in their own direction. There's no synergy, there's no focus, there's no unity, there's no cohesion, there's no vision, but everyone's kind of pulling in their own direction. This stage 1 is what we call confusion, right? Stage 2 is when you begin to see that the arrows, at least there's some level of like focus to them. So this arrow over here, and I'll circle it, this arrow over here is no longer pointed that direction. We're able to at least somehow get all these arrows pointed kind of east, right? This is what we call communication, where at least we're beginning to communicate, right? Stage 3 is when the arrows start to look a little bit more like organized. They're, it's still not total synergy, but we're starting to move in a cohesive direction, in a focused direction. We call this coordination, where we're coordinating. And then stage 4, that's stage 3. Stage 4 is where all arrows are aligned and moving in the same direction. And this stage 4 is the journey that the executive mind, the strategic mind, the executive leader is tasked with. It's how do we get all of the individuals who are in stage 1 confusion, how do we get them pointed in the same direction, stage 4? Now, this process can take, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 36 months, 3 to 5 years, depending on the culture of your organization, depending on the values and the levers that you can pull in your organization. I've seen it happen very quickly, 6 months, 12 months, and then I've seen it take 3 to 5 years. So it just kind of depends on the organization. But the reason why I bring this up is because you asked the question around clarity, and one of the main levers that a leader has to pull in order to move people from stage 1 to stage 4 is you have to have clarity of vision. You have to be able to say, this is our endpoint. This is our destination. This is a star. If you can't tell, that's my version of a star, right? This is where we're going. This is the North Star, right? All arrows. And as the leader, you have this vision. You've developed the vision with your core team. You're sharing the vision. And it's not we shared it once and everyone gets it, but you become the chief visionary officer. You are constantly sharing the vision. Every meeting, every staff meeting, every C-suite meeting, every all hands meeting, every departmental meeting, you are sharing, hey guys, this is where we're doing. This is where we're going. This is the destination. You have to have clarity of vision so that in people's minds, when they see you coming, they'll be able to say, oh, here comes Ashley again, talking about our vision, talking about where we're going. And I've said this before, and I like saying it because I think people really understand it, is that when you as a leader, when you're not clear on the vision, it then leads to multiple visions. You have an idea, someone else has an idea, another person has an idea, and there's multiple visions. And anytime you have multiple visions, more than one vision, that's when you have division. Division is when there's multiple visions. And division eventually leads to divorce. People leave the organization. There's turnover. You're not able to retain your best talent, right? You start losing customers. You start losing market share. Why? Because there's division amongst your organization, because there's multiple visions.
Yeah.
And clarity is so critical and so important, because it really helps the leaders identify, this is exactly where we're going. This is our North Star, and this is our 5-year picture. We got a 3-year picture. We got a 1-year picture. We got a 90-day picture. We got 90 days going. And so everyone is marching to the beat of the same drum.
Woo. If you don't have vision, it leads to division. which will lead to divorce. Okay.
Divorce. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Seth.
I think we can tweet that.
Yeah, okay. I love that. And I will say too that vision, we know is a global characteristic that regardless of where you are in the world, organization, teams, employees appreciate and need that visionary leadership. They need you to help set the direction and to make sure that we are all on the same page. We talked about this yesterday about setting the expectations, being very clear, communicating in different ways, but setting that vision, wow, it's really, really important and powerful to ensuring that you are effective as a leader, and that, your organization can support that vision. So
Yep.
absolutely.
100%.
Yeah. Now, I think also the reality is there's a lot going on in the world today. There's a lot going on, and executives have a ton on their hands. And how do great leaders, distinguishing great leaders, use systems thinking to solve the right problems instead of just putting out the fires, whether they're small or whether they're big? What does that look like for an executive?
That's a great question. And I'm going to go back to my board because I think there's a model that might be helpful for individuals. It's not something I created. It's been something that's been around for years, but it's a framework that helps individuals, specifically executive leaders, kind of understand what they're facing when they're facing challenges, when they're facing different environmental or organizational challenges. And the way this model works is on one axis, we have low, and I'm going to put high up here. And then we got, actually, no, we're going to reverse it. It's going to be high down here and low up here. And again, it's high over here and low over here. This first, and let me change colors here for you. So one axis is agreement. High agreement means everyone is aligned. Everyone sees the same thing. 1 + 1, we can all agree equals 2, right? That's high agreement. Low agreement is when we're not aligned, right? Our country is in this state right now. Political parties, there's a third party starting. There's a low agreement, right? When COVID hit, right? There was low agreement. What should we do? How should we do it? Should we mask? Should we not mask? There was low agreement. People were not aligned. On the other axis is where we have certainty. And certainty says when there's high certainty, we know what the outcome is going to be. If there's low certainty, we don't know what the outcome is going to be. An example of high certainty might be where the organization has standardized their work, right? So it's almost like the cause and effect are very clear. If we follow this process, it's going to lead to this. So let's say there's a employee onboarding process, and you say, okay, we're going to take our employees through 3, 4, 5 steps. And once they go through those 4 or 5 steps, they will be able to do their job sufficiently, right? There's very little ambiguity about whether or not those steps work. They pretty much work, right? That's high certainty. Low certainty is when we don't know what the outcome will be after we do these steps. Maybe you're facing a merger and you're saying, hey, we need to kind of create a new culture between these two organizations, and we don't know what it's going to look like, right? There's low certainty. COVID was another situation, another example of extremely low certainty. We don't know if these vaccines are going to work. We don't know if masking is going to work. We don't know if social distancing is going to work, right? We just don't know. And so there was low certainty. And the way that this framework and this model works, Ashley, is that when you have high agreement and you have high certainty, that's what we call and I'll just draw it like this. That's what we call a simple problem. It's a simple problem. Very easy for us to solve. It's simple. We all agree, and the certainty of the outcome is almost guaranteed. That's a simple problem. But when you have less agreement and you have less certainty, that's when we start to get into this realm, and we'll call this complicated. So this is a scenario where, there's less agreement. Some people think we should do A, some people think we should do B. There's less certainty. There's no guarantee that A is going to work. There's no guarantee that B is going to work. It's a complicated situation that we're facing. A lot of moving parts that aren't connected together, right? A lot of variables. If you have even less agreement, and less certainty, this is what we call a complex problem. And a complex problem is almost what we experienced with COVID, right? It's what a lot of organizations are facing. Like there's, AI is now being introduced into the marketplace, and we're not sure the effects of AI on our business model. Are we going to be sustainable? Are we going to be able to embrace and integrate AI into our business platforms so that we can still retain market share, so that we can still meet the demand of the marketplace? We don't know, right? And there's some people who think AI is the best thing. There's some people who think it's like the mark of the beast and it's the end of the beginning of the end. And so they're like, we don't know what we should do with AI. And so there's middle to low agreement. There's uncertainty. So it's a complex problem. When you get to this level, Ashley, where there's extremely low agreement and there is extremely low certainty, anything beyond this area, and I'll just draw some arrows again, anything beyond this area, this is where we get to what we like to call chaos. And when we call it chaos, we actually just call it chaotic, right? So this is where they frame it around like this idea of we're on the edge of chaos. And so this would be COVID. This would be a major disruption in the marketplace. This is where no one agrees. There's no certainty, and we just feel like we don't know what to do. And the reason I frame this for leaders is because the strategic mind needs to understand what problem they're dealing with. Is this a simple problem? Is this a complicated problem? Is this a complex problem? Or are we on the edge of chaos? And based off of what problem we're dealing with, and that problem is diagnosed based off of low agreement, high agreement, low certainty, high certainty, based off of the type of problem we're dealing with, I now know what levers I need to pull in order to hopefully allow my team to navigate through this problem. So if it's a simple problem, we use SOPs, we use training, we use automation, right? If it's a complicated problem, we want to use analysis, planning, get expert input, consultants. If it's a complex problem, we need to try innovation, experimentation, iterative design, collaboration. If it's a chaotic problem and we're in crisis, there's no agreement and there's no certainty, that's where we have to, we got to take a step, we got to reevaluate, take another step, reevaluate, take another step, reevaluate. We're not sure what the end is going to be, but we're just going to keep taking small incremental steps. We're going to act, we're going to evaluate, we're going to respond as we try to navigate this chaotic crisis zone where there's no agreement and there's no certainty. And so I like to share this with leaders, especially on the executive level, because this kind of helps you bucket your problems. Is it simple? Is it complex? Is it complicated? Is it chaos? And then depending on which bucket it falls in, now I know, okay, what lever do I potentially need to pull in order to move my organization through, right? This is balcony view, right? This is balcony view, looking at the problem and seeing how do I categorize it and how do I move through it?
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Hopefully it does.
Yeah.
What you're talking about, you really need to diagnose the problem and to ask the right questions, right, about it. Einstein, there's some quote that Einstein says around like, if I had an hour to solve a problem in my life, I would take 55 minutes of that hour asking questions, yep. Making sure that I had everything that I needed to have before I made that decision. So that diagnosis and getting together and thinking about how to pivot with your team, it's all encompassing. It's all encompassed in that. So it makes
and I
a
mean,
lot of sense.
and largely your ability to do that is going to be based off of the relational mind that we established yesterday.
Yes.
So if you're experiencing the edge of chaos, hopefully there's enough trust built up with your team so that even if there is no agreement, we can still make steps forward because we built a psychologically safe, trusting environment. So literally every mind is built on the next. Like the reflective mind, the relational mind is built on the reflective mind. The strategic mind is built on the relational mind. And so your ability to lead the organization is around, you can lead yourself, you can inspire trust with your team, and then you can lead the culture, lead the enterprise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah.
I hope you're taking notes.
Yeah. The other thing I would say about this when it comes to like systems thinking is what I've experienced with executive leaders that I've coached, that I've worked with, that I know you've coached, worked with, Pierre, Ben, Kevin have all coached and worked with, is the best executives, they have what we like to call second order thinking. So second order thinking. First order thinking says, okay, we got to cut the training budget to save money. That's first order thinking. We need to save money, cut the training bucket. Second order thinking says, okay, but if we cut the training budget, our team will become less skilled, morale will drop, errors will increase, retention suffers, and it will cost us more in the long run. Right? So you see what we just did? It's like first order thinking is, let's just solve the problem, cut. Second order thinking says, well, if we cut, what are the consequences to cutting? What are the long-term ramifications of cutting? And so systems thinking really has the ability to say, how does decision A affect B and affect C? What's the ripple effect of this decision? An easy example would be, if I stay up late to finish my homework, I'll meet the deadline. Okay, yeah, first order thinking. But if I stay up late to finish my homework, I'll meet the deadline, but I'll be exhausted tomorrow. I'll make poor decisions, and it might damage trust with my team, right? So that's second order thinking. And so it's really about your ability as an executive who has a strategic mind to think, what are the ramifications, implications, and consequences of this decision? First order, second order, third order, and to be able to see the multiple balcony view, the multiple chess moves, and the ripple effect that those moves will have down the road.
Yeah. Woo. Let's go. That's a lot to consider, unpack. It's a mindset that you have to have. It's not just a skill set. We're talking about mindset here. So, and I want to end with one final question before we invite our other guests to join us, is if you could give one challenge to every emerging executive leader listening right now, what would that be?
Yeah, I would say raise your vantage point, right? Really, really work hard to widen your lens. Take ownership of the organization. Understand that if you are an executive leader, you have the privilege of creating the future. That's what executive leaders do. They create the future. The executive leaders I work with in healthcare, they're creating the future of healthcare. The decisions that they're making are going to shape healthcare for years to come. If you're an executive in transportation industry, manufacturing, you are in a position where you are creating a vision of what the future will look like. And then you are cascading that vision, getting buy-in, and your frontline staff are bringing that vision to pass. So understand the responsibility that you have. I know a lot of people want that corner office, that C-suite spot because of the title, maybe because of the pay, because of the recognition, and all of the perks that come with it. But it comes with a mantle, a great mantle, a heavy mantle of responsibility that you are creating the future, a future that will either provide a abundant livelihood for your team and your staff and your customers, or a future that might result in people losing their jobs and people not being unemployed and having more stress and anxiety and exhaustion in the workplace.
Right.
So if you're an executive leader, you're an aspiring executive leader, I want to encourage you to raise your vantage point, widen your lens, understand that you're in a seat and you're stepping into a seat of privilege where you have the responsibility of creating something that has not yet existed through your organization that can bless and benefit the world. And so surround yourself with other individuals, join a cohort, join a community, get coaching. If you don't feel like you naturally have a strategic mind and you want to work on it, you can develop it. You can develop the mindset, right? You can develop the skills so you can begin to diagnose, on a system level, the challenges you're facing. So that's the more than one piece of advice I would give, but that's the advice that I would give aspiring executives and current executives.
Yep. Like Pierre started to say, with great power comes great responsibility. Absolutely. Well, now, thank you for all of that said. And now I'd like to invite our other guests who have been with us the last 2 days. So day 3 now. Good morning, Pierre, Ben, Kevin. How's everybody doing?
Hey, we're doing great because Seth just gave us a master class.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Somebody pulls out the iPad with the pen.
Yeah,
It's about to be gym on gym on gym on gym.
You know how you hear people say, they took us to church. I was feeling over here, man. Seth took us to class. It was amazing.
Yeah, and when he changed colors, it was serious when he changed colors on the iPad.
Listen. Right now, I'm just using the iPad. The board is coming. The board is coming.
Listen, I'm ready.
Love it. Well, let me start off with you, Ben. What has stood out to you in this conversation?
Yeah, I think that equation set that you laid out, the idea of, you have to have a toolbox of developed skills. You have to have the ability to manage and motivate people. And then you really, I think, you gave us that big vision for how important it is to actually have vision. And I one question that comes to mind right off the bat, Seth, is I had a friend of mine who in the early pandemic, he went from a managerial role into a C-suite role, and right away was faced with that complexity and chaos of the pandemic. And it didn't go well, and he ended up being let go from that position. And I just think about the skills may have been there, the motivation was there, but the vision and ability to step into that place right off the bat as an executive of chaos and complexity, that ability just was not there.
Yeah.
And what would you say, Seth, to somebody who is in a new executive role and they are right off the bat facing complexity and chaos? How would you speak into that? Do you have any case studies of people that navigated that space well?
Yeah. I would say two things off the bat. One is, if you're an executive leader, you really have to embrace a rhythm of silence and solitude. I firmly believe that as an executive leader, you have to be able to quiet the noise and just bring down the temperature, the internal temperature, and that temperature is also known as pressure. You have to be able to bring down the internal temperature, bring down the temperature of your room. When you step into a room, everything gets calmer and cooler because you're there. That doesn't happen if you are in chaos yourself. And the only way you as an executive leader aren't constantly in reactive mode is you have spent time decompressing and you have embraced silence and solitude, journaling, meditation. And so you're able to really just operate from a place of presence. The second thing I would say is you have to understand that your strength is in the team. That as the executive, you don't have to have all of the right answers. right? They're not hiring you because you have all the right answers. They're hiring you because you have developed the relational capital. You know how to inspire, motivate, bring together, collaborate, coalesce, using Kevin's word, bringing synergy, creating synergy in the space so that now you can bring the best and the brightest people and together you can figure out the problem, right? COVID was not, let me say it like this. Organizations did not navigate through COVID with a single leader at the top. It was, how are we going to do this? How are we going to navigate this? How are we going to, what are your thoughts? Okay, we don't know if that's going to work. Let's try it. I mean, organizations I work with, they had like operation command centers. And the command center is where the senior leaders got together every day and like, okay, what's new? What's happening? Especially within healthcare, what did we see last night? What's taking place? What can we try? What do we need? And everyone just kind of circled the wagons. And so as a leader, executive leader, long answer to a great question, embrace silence and solitude. What is your rhythm of meditation? What is your rhythm of decompressing so that you show up present, full, and cool? And then how are you able to really create a culture of collaboration where when you're on the edge of chaos, you're bringing everyone together to solve the problems the organization's facing?
Come on, connecting the reflective and the relational mindset. Let's go.
I want to jump in on that, just the reflection here. So I'm reading a book called The Advice Trap, and it talks about how as many times senior leaders can become the bottleneck in their organizations because they fall into this expectation that they have to have all of the answers all of the time, and just how damaging that is. And Seth, as you were talking about this balcony view, this enterprise view of the organization, it was just outlining in the book that studies consistently show the senior leaders, the executive leaders that have the most impact are the ones that leverage intellectual curiosity. They realize as we are wrestling with these problems, even my balcony view, even my enterprise view needs to be guided, needs to be nudged, needs to be informed by other people's views and other people's perspectives. And how many times you lead to someone firing, being removed from the organization because they weren't willing to bring other viewpoints or other nudges into the conversation, even as they sat at the top at that enterprise balcony view of the company.
That's good. That's good.
Kevin.
Let me tell you, I'm floating over here, man. Can I go back to something for a second? I gotta go back to something. I have to. Sure. This multi-vision creates division, creates divorce. Like we can't blast past that. I mean, there is no more truer words. And I think, your skill in being able to communicate, Seth, allowed you to create that beautiful saying. But it is so true. Like vision has to be singular, whether it is wrong or right. It has to be singular. And it takes a little bit of a delusional mind. I know we talk about reflective and relational and strategic minds, but it takes a delusional mind to pick a vision, pick a direction, pick a place that we're going to end up and drive with all of that skill and ability to get there. Man, that was a powerful piece. I think I'll also say, I just want to jump on something as well that I've heard, this idea of COVID's impact on leadership. The funny thing is we talked about imposter syndrome. We've talked about relating to team members and inspiring them and being connected and trust. And then we're talking about knowing your organization and having a specific view. What COVID did is it leveled the playing field because no one knew what to do. And it became really important that everyone became exceptional at the place in which they sat in the organization. I want to say that one more time. What COVID actually did is it leveled the playing field, and it became exceptionally important that we all became experts at the place in which we sat in the organization. I'll tell you what that means. You know, when we were going through COVID, my ability to have a balcony view was the extent of what I brought to the table. As an executive, the extent of what I brought to the table was what my view of how we were navigating. The extent of what our team members and even our frontline people brought to the table was their exceptional ability to do the task. And so when you level the playing field and you have us all kind of laying at the same point, it's very important for executives to understand how to create that. And it's something that I've held on to for COVID. It was my COVID takeaway, was to keep us in that space, keep us focused in that space where I am an exceptional viewpoint. I can see all the pieces. I can see where they're heading, and I'm very clear on my vision. I'm not a technician.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to make sure that I put that to the side. What I am is an exceptional viewer, and my leaders are exceptional movers, and my frontline folks are exceptional doers. And when we all kind of, and this is the synergy, you know, this is, hey, you get me bouncing in my chair when I talk about synergy, is that we all become really good at that and focused in that singular vision.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, what we can accomplish is there's nothing we can't accomplish.
Right.
Nothing we can't accomplish.
Yeah. That's good.
I just had to go back to that. That I'm writing it. I'm telling you, that's staying on my board. Multi-vision creates a division, which creates a divorce. So
hey Seth, you got Kevin all excited this morning, all the way in the East Coast.
Love
it, man.
Seth, a couple questions that came to mind, and that was so good. Two would be this: if a leader needs a balcony view, how does he or she build their balcony to get that view? And so I'd like to hear you speak into that. And secondly would be, how does the leader know when the vision is right? And I think that question of, you know, there's a lot of investment into shaping and sharing a vision. We're talking financial, energy, time when it comes to articulating that, vision statements, sharing that vision with an organization. So how does somebody know? Is it an internal alignment? But how does a leader know when the vision is right? When he or she can say, that's it. That is the vision that we need for the next 1, 3, or 5 years. So how do you build your balcony? And then how do you actually know when the vision is the right vision that is worth sharing to eventually shape the organization?
Yeah. Great questions. The first question, I would say, you build the balcony view. So the privilege of being an executive is you have the ability to step into every department. So as an executive, you have to embrace what we call in healthcare rounding. You have to go and you have to round with all of your leaders, hear what they're saying, visit their frontline staff, talk to the customers, go down to engineering, go to HR, go to, if you're in a hospital, healthcare, go to the different units. You have to gain the perspective through conversations with what's happening in your organization. And as you are engaged in your organization, that begins to form a perspective, because the person who's in engineering doesn't see what the person who's in HR sees, what the person in HR sees. And the person in HR doesn't see what that charge nurse sees. And the person who's the charge nurse doesn't see what the other person, you know, in finance sees. Everyone has their what they're focused on, their task, right? Their silo. And no judgment. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just what it is. So as an executive, you have to be able to step into everyone's world to gain the perspective from everyone And that's what allows you to elevate, because while engineering is saying, hey, we're struggling with this, we need this. And then you hear finance saying, hey, we have, very low margin and we need more margin in our budget. And HR saying, hey, we need to hire more people. We need more training and development. As the leader, you now are beginning to elevate. And that's how you're building your balcony, where you're now saying, oh, I see what HR is doing. I see what engineering is doing. I see what finance is doing. I see what operations are doing, what the nurses are doing, what the docs are doing. And now I can see how we can begin to prioritize the issues and kind of bring them all together. So Ben, great question. I would say the way you build your balcony is by spending time with your people and getting their perspective on what's happening, right? And it allows you to then elevate, so you can see the whole, and you're not just siloed in to one department. The second question you ask is, how do you know the vision is right? It assumes that there is a right vision. And I don't know if there is a right vision, right? If you and I are going on a road trip, is it New York or is it Miami? One's not right. It's just, where do we want to go, right? What excites our people? What gets them motivated? What's going to meet our customers' needs? What's going to address the problems that our people are facing, that the world is facing, our community's facing? So I wouldn't want the leader to feel the pressure of feeling as though they have to get the vision right. I don't feel like you have to get it right. I feel like you have to, like what Kevin said, we just got to be aligned. And if we're aligned on New York, and then we're halfway to New York and we realize, we're not feeling New York anymore. All right, let's do a pivot. All right, now we're going to Miami, right? Now, but there has to be alignment. We don't want to, every other day we're switching destinations. I know Advent Health, an healthcare organization, they have a 5-year vision, which is to become a preeminent organization. Is that right? Well, it's right for them. It works for them. It connects. It motivates. It inspires their leaders. There's another healthcare organization, right? Let's say Kettering Health. They have a different vision, right? And theirs may not be preeminent. Theirs may be something else, right? Is that right? So I don't want you to think right or wrong. I want you to think, what brings my team together? What aligns people? What galvanizes people, that allows us to then best meet our customers' needs, our stakeholders' needs, so that we can solve the problem our people are facing.
Yeah, so
Does
good.
that make sense?
Yeah.
I just think
go ahead.
What you said is so freeing. I think just to hear you say there is no perfect vision.
Yeah.
The perfect vision is the best vision that makes the most sense for right now.
For us right now.
And as you journey forward, visions are going to change, and they're going to grow, and they're going to develop. And you, as an executive leader, you're going to learn along the way. Yeah. And as you learn along the way with your people, the vision is going to change. And that's what a vision is meant to do. So, you took a lot of pressure off of me at 7:05 in the morning.
If I can connect a dot, I really love that. You're right. That absolutely does become freeing. But there's a dot I want to connect, especially for those individuals who are, and I like the word you use, Seth, privileged to be in position of executive leadership. It is a privilege. I mean, it truly is. I do believe that the vision should be anchored in something. Like, I do understand. It's like, we're going to New York, but the why is what really helps to set. It's really the seed. The why is really the seed that helps to sprout kind of what vision you pick. And, I always suggest whatever the primal need of your customer or your utilizer or your user, use that to set the anchor for your why. I really feel like the heart is where a lot of those things grow. And you're right. There's no right or wrong. And I think that should be one of the first things that gets thrown out the window. It really is about alignment, but it really should be anchored in that primal need of your user. So in healthcare, I'll just share this: the well-being of people. Now, your vision for where you're going, whether you're being preeminent or you're being, a household name, or you're being whatever terminology you want to use to encapsulate it, that's the freedom. But it should be rooted in why. It's because people's well-being is important. And once you find that root, once you find that seed, I think it's a perfect place to then, really settle in on picking a place or a destination for your vision.
Mm-hmm.
I love that, Kevin. I've heard one of the definitions of vision to be this vivid picture of what we could be that's driven by this core message that we should be. And I think a lot of times we miss that. Okay, here's where we're going, but that core piece of why should this be meaningful to us, and then how we cascade that across the organization is really important.
Yeah.
I could add some characteristics of a good vision. So it's concrete, it's clear, it connects to the heart, it's challenging. So, man, if you have a vision, we don't want it to be abstract. I believe in strategic vision. So we want it to be concrete. This is where we're going in 5 years. This is what the future looks like for us in 5 years. We want it to be clear. I don't want to say we're going to the West Coast. I want to say we're going to San Diego, right? And not just San Diego, but we're going to this particular location in San Diego. Like, this is the destination. So we want it to be concrete. We want it to be clear. We want it to connect to people's hearts. So when someone hears it, they're inspired by it. Your vision should be inspiring, right? Think about a vision board that you might have in your own home, and you have all of the things that you aspire to be, and those things are inspiring to you. So your vision should connect to the heart of your core stakeholders, right? And it should be challenging, right? Your vision should cause you to stretch. It should cause you to become something you're currently not. Right. And so we set a challenging vision for the future. And then we have to ask ourselves, okay, in order to reach this vision, who must we become? Who must we become as leaders, as teams, as organizations? What values must we model? Right? How do we then deploy leadership development services and strategies and HR strategies to help our people upskill so that they can become the version of themselves required to meet the vision? Because every vision that you pursue, it demands something from you. So if my vision for my life is to lose 30 pounds, well, that vision is going to demand something, right? So
that's right.
Less burrito bowls and more salad bowls, right? Right? Less donut, right? So your vision should demand something of you, or demand something from you, in order to experience it. So yes to what Kevin said, yes to what Ben said. I would just give a few of those characteristics that whatever the destination is, make sure it's clear, make sure it's concrete, make sure it connects to your people's hearts, which is there's a why behind it, and then make sure it's challenging, it's stretching you and requiring you to raise your level.
Yeah. We have a really great and timely question in the chat that I'd like somebody to address. So the question is, in times of organizational change, such as during layoffs, and we know there's a lot of layoffs going on right now, what are the most effective strategies executive leaders can use to support and engage their remaining team members, both emotionally and operationally, while maintaining that trust and productivity that we've been talking about?
Oh. I was going to say, let me say something on this. Maya Angelou has this beautiful quote where she says that people will forget what you do, but they'll never forget how you make them feel. And I think it's really important, especially in the executive function, that how you handle the people who are being laid off will be remembered by the people who are staying. And we talked a little bit about what happens when we fracture trust. I think Pierre had a great phrase on that. He called it the trust clock is reset. whenever you're going through those layoffs that are actually part of the life cycle of organizations and companies, the way that we handle the individuals who have to accept that package or have to receive that slip or have to walk out the door, it's going to be remembered by the people who are there to stay. And you can either reset the clock, set it backwards, or damage it completely by the way you handle those individuals. And so I don't want it to be lost that the heart that you put in taking care of those individuals is what at least helps you set the stage for the fact that, okay, this leader doesn't just care about the seat. This person cares about the person that's in the seat. Now, I just also add on the back end of that, it's really important when you are dealing with the aftermath of a group of people leaving the organization, that you don't jump right into tasks, right into objectives, right into skills. You give your teams, you give your leaders an opportunity to mourn. It's okay to have that conversation. It's okay to come in the room, talk, close the door, and really just mourn the fact that these team members are no longer with us. I think it's really important then to take that time, not stay there, but take that time, because it really does show the heart of the leader, the heart of the organization. And so I just wanted to kind of share that on it, as I'm just seeing too often where executive leaders are ready to kind of say, yep, that's done. All right, now we had to do that to get this done, so let's go get it done. Not realizing that there's a lot of rubble that's been created by the way that they handled those layoffs.
Yeah, humanize the process. We got to
humanize the process. There are people. These are people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm sure that you all have more to say, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time this morning. Look, there's more that we can be talking about, but I just kind of want to wrap up by saying that over the last 3 days we've explored what it really takes and what mindsets you need to operate at the executive level. So it's not just that title, it's not just about managing people, it's the mindset that you have. So you've heard from us over the last 3 days about the reflective mind. So this is who you are. The relational mind, this is how you lead others. The strategic mind, how you think and operate, at scale. So I just want everybody to remember that executive readiness isn't just about mastering one of these. You've heard us really integrate and intertwine all of these mindsets together over the course of the 3 days. And so you can't just have one, you need all of them. It's your ability to, create that self-awareness, to self-regulate, to cultivate that trust, to have that balcony view that Seth talked about this morning. That's going to really allow leaders to, to operate and navigate in the complex, sometimes ambiguous and chaotic world that we live in right now. So we hope that this series, really sparked reflection in you. And we know that reflection is, Ben talked about it a couple of days ago, where, you have to act at some point. You have to do something about it. So what does this mean for you all? Ask yourself, what is that next level of leadership you're looking to step into? How are you already changing the narrative about who you are and about where you want to be and how you can serve others in your organizations? But then what support do you need? What are the tools? Who are the people you need around you to help you get to that next level? So, want to encourage people to take that short assessment as well. Again, it'll take you less than 5 minutes. I think most people, it's about 3 minutes long, to gauge where you are at, to see, what things you can still develop and work on. And if you are ready to move from this insight and reflection to impact and action, consider joining our Executive Mindset Accelerate Pre-Executive Coaching Cohort this fall. This is not just your traditional webinar. It's not just one of those workshops. This is a transformational experience that includes assessments, simulations, one-on-one coaching from executive coaches, and that community and that cohort that we've been talking about as well, that can grow with you, that can support you alongside that journey. So we hope that you're leaving with more clarity, more confidence, more reflection, so that you can, really decide what is your path forward. So please take a look at our website, reach out to us, ask questions, reach out to us on LinkedIn. And, I want to thank all of our panelists, all of our guests, all of our speakers, for sharing all of your amazing insights. You've worked with hundreds of executives. You have decades of combined experience. So we are very honored to have gained your insight, your advice, your wisdom. So I just want to thank you. I know I have learned a ton. And you audience, people that are listening, you are capable of leading at that higher level. And we'd love for you to consider joining, a journey with us so we can support you in that.
Mm-hmm.
Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
Oh, you summed it up. You summed it up well. This has been fun. And if you've seen value in this and want to take the next step, feel free to reach out to any one of us. LinkedIn, YouTube, email, wherever you might follow us. And we would love to have a conversation as far as how we can help you prepare for that next level.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone again for listening in. We hope you have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week, and a great weekend. And we'll see you next time. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.